Okay. Oh, there we go. Oh, I'm ready. Well, had some technical issues to deal with, but I think it's running properly now. Just need to get my palette out and I'll be ready to go. All right. Palette's up. Everything looks ready to go. All right. Yeah, I don't know what I'm trying to do. A little wet. Probably going to be tacky, unfortunately. My least favorite, but what can you do? think I need to, what's it called? Re-wet my clove oil that I put in my palette because this is all way drier than it should be. I keep a little container with a cotton ball with clove oil in my palette when it's closed. Helps keep the paint fresh for longer. It works for this, but apparently the mixes are a little on the dry side or completely dry. We'll find out. So right now I'm just trying to model in some of the folds here. Um, at some point today, I'm going to address the face, the parts that need addressing, because clearly there are some parts that need work. I don't know how much you can see on stream, but there's these red lines. Those are all just drawing lines for placement. I don't want those in the painting. So all those will be painted over. Folds are always, not always is probably the wrong term, but folds can be very challenging. It's easy to get lost in them. I did a painting where I tried to map out all the folds in advance, and that didn't go well. That was just way actually worse than trying to like find your way as you go through them. But it is definitely something that you can get lost in. I know I do. my approach for painting folds is to um, now is to try and map out the general shape of the thing, the general form, regardless of the individual folds, and then start and build in the bigger to smaller folds kind of thing. Very similar to just like going from large to small, uh, kind of a basic painting um, principle, but yeah, or painting, drawing, everything really. Start off general and move more and more into the details. I think painting is uh, such an interesting thing in general because it's very contradictory in many ways. Like there are some painters who have very special secret techniques, but then most painters don't, and most painting is just put paint on canvas kind of thing, which sounds super simple and basic. And in a way it is, but some people can just do magic with that. Um, there's all these painters I love that just seem like they take this simple concept and do something just amazing with it. And that's not the only aspect of painting that's like contradictory or whatever the right term is. It's um it's both very fun and very hard, which often are associated as opposites. Um, Although not always. Yeah, in many ways, I feel like it's contradictory, or it holds opposing not views. I don't know what the word is. My brain apparently isn't working very well today, but yeah, it's a busy day today. I'm hoping next week calms down a little because I don't know that I want to keep going at this pace. Not referring to the streaming, just in general. Honestly, the painting right now is physically not in the best state to work on it. It Parts of it are wet and great to work on, and parts are too dry or completely dry. Um, ideally, I would want it to all be like one uniform, uh, state. But I also want to finish the painting, and I do not feel like working on the other paintings I have to work on right now. At least not on stream. They just have too many details, and I need to get too close in on the canvas, and it's hard to do with the camera in the way. Let me just check my stream out. Okay, cool. Everything's working properly. So the material of this shirt has a bit of a reflective quality to it. So it's picking up a lot of different colors into it, um, from different light sources that were present at the time. So even though it's a black, you know, blue, bluish fabric, it's got some reds in it and so on. And of course, greens and so on. like I said, it's easy to get lost in folds sometimes, even simple ones, relatively speaking. Because like this is a relatively simple um, fold pattern right here, but yeah, man, folds, they can be tricky. I really need to get a better maul stick. For anyone who's curious, um, don't know what the origin of the word maul stick is. I'm using, this is like a little metal magnet thing um, as my maul stick, but it's not the sturdiest of things, and it keeps slipping off. I need to figure something out so that the what's it called? It latches on better. Yeah, maul stick is just a, for anyone who's curious, it's just a stick. You rest it so you're not resting your hand on the what's it called, on the wet paint, but you can rest your hand and be close to the painting. It's good for detail. Gotta be careful. Um, just because it's not good to get too close to your painting all the time. Like they say step back for a reason to get a better perspective. Also, you do a lot more painting from the wrist, which can have its downsides. Uh, and its positives, obviously. It depends what you're doing. One of my teachers has a phrase. I don't know where she got it from. I think she got it from one of her teachers. But uh, it's like you don't want to be a cat licking the canvas or something. Forget the exact phrasing, but yeah, the idea being, you know, you when you're painting, you want to actually be putting down paint. And if all you're doing is brushing and not making a difference, then you need to change something. Having said that, sometimes it happens because of the canvas is too wet or dry. But it's something I always keep in mind because I don't want to get stuck into that. Of course, I'm not sure how well you can see some of this on stream. I think you can see it okay-ish. but it's hard to tell. I should probably just go back and watch my streams to know. I just haven't had time. So, and honestly, the zoom in, I did not enjoy that method of streaming. So I think I'm just stuck with this for now. There we go. Trying to get that transition.
Are you streaming?
I am streaming. Nope. At the moment, I have 0 streamers. 0 viewers today. It happens. It's fine. At least I get to paint. I said at least I get to paint. And someone might watch it after the fact. I'm actually surprised at how much people watch the videos after. It's not like I get a lot of views, but even 1 view is more than I thought I'd get. I said I don't get a lot of views, but even 1 view is more than I expect on the VOD, like on the video uh, recording. So I was just surprised by that people even do that. Are you going to bed? Okay. Okay.
I can see where you work more on like the face and stuff to make things pop. It looks good. Wizard.
Right, I think that's look it is. So where I can, do try and do things with few strokes as I can. So if I can describe a fold or something with just one stroke, try to keep that in there. Some painters are masterful at that. I am not. But I try and do it when I can. Some people are amazing at that, and also probably put a lot of effort, at least in the beginning, to do that. It's less a focus of mine, but something I want to improve on over. One of the found with glass palette, I don't know if it's glass palette or paint, but one of the things, the issues I come up with like house is that my brushes like mix the paint to the point where it's so thin on the palette that it's very useful. So to go in and bunch it up, get piles again, get up into piles. And there's one thing I know I do that I know isn't good for my brushes, which is sometimes scoop the paint with my brush, like going against the hairs, try and scoop up more paint. I just need more paint, really, is what it boils down to. I need to put down more paint. Putting down more paint is a very, or rather not putting down enough paint is a very common. Literally almost every class I've ever gone, they think I've gotten multiple times. Having said that, some of my paints, uh, they're so potent that I put more, I'll just waste it. I need is very little. It does depend. There've been very few I churn through problem because it's just so obviously not never, but more than not. Rather, not that I don't churn through it, that I end up needing one more. Just so strong. I'm talking to myself. Yes. At the moment, I have 0 viewers. It happens. I haven't been very good about advertising that I'm streaming. I know. Um, it's all right. I'm just getting into it, so I don't mind having fewer viewers right at the moment. That way I have fewer people watching me mess up with my streaming. I'm not worried about the painting aspect, but the streaming aspect, like when I started today, my microphones didn't work. So one of those things I had to deal with. It's black sometimes. Like, I don't think it's the deepest black in the world, but it really takes over a mix. Hey, looks like there's a viewer. Welcome, viewer. Oh, that's nice. Apparently, a friend, I don't know if he wants to be outed, so I'm not his name, but a friend of Michelle's mine is watching right now. Welcome. Thanks for stopping by. So one of the disadvantages of not separating my brushes out. Um, some people, when they paint, they'll separate multiple brushes all at the same time. They'll have ones for light, ones for dark, ones for, you know, cool colors, warm colors, so on and so forth. I don't do that. I mostly use brushes based off of the size I need. And one of the disadvantages of that my brush is always dirty, almost. So it affects my mixes. Sometimes I have to overmix to compensate and mix. My mixes get dirty, so I have to keep remixing them and so on. I suppose if I used like a tub of solvent or something, I could possibly mitigate this, but I don't. I don't like to deal with that. And there's an advantage to it as well, which is when you're trying to paint with compressed values and tones, it automatically automatically does it for you to a degree. So just something to be aware of. I also tried having multiple brushes. Like losing track of which one was what. This felt like more more work than it was worth. Yeah. That is one of the reasons I wish about those silicone paint pushers instead of brushes a lot of times, or a lot more. Because those don't have this situation. They just don't function like brushes, unfortunately. And they're very useful sometimes, especially for like very, very fine detail where hairs of the brush start becoming an issue. one thing that like I found was an interesting kind of change of shift in perception or thought when painting versus drawing that sorry, there's some noise in the background. What's going on? Um, that a lot of times in painting, I end up doing what I call carving out, which is like I'll block in a larger shape or something, and then go in and carve out the detail of it. Whereas I draw with a pencil, there's much more of a direct what I'm looking for, like directness to it. Not as much carving out as just go in and do it the way you want it. I'm not saying you don't draw things out in paint either, but a lot of times carving it out is better approach. Anyone's watching or or, or actually no, if anyone's watching, they're wondering why sometimes just mix colors kind of at random, like color from anywhere and mix it. Um, because my palette is so limited, if I mix I take a mix that's um one color and I just randomly, not randomly, but I take a different mix into it. Either a lot of time it's just going to go towards like mud or gray colors. So if I'm trying to neutralize a color, I can often just grab a color nearby and mix it. Not always, not random, but yeah, so much of it's so similar, and it ends up not being a problem. And a lot of times shadows, um, shadow colors, even though we perceive them as sometimes blue or whatever, like honestly, our perception is so messed up sometimes, be anything. Um, but often they're just a desaturated color of the same thing, that whatever it is, just desaturated and darker. Not always, of course. Often it'll step a little cooler, most common, but it can go a little warmer, just depends. But a lot of times when you perceive it as like green, blue, it's really just desaturated gray. And a good way of testing that and practicing that is photos, putting them in Photoshop and color checking. I don't think while painting it's best practice to constantly do that, but although you need to go for it. But it's a good way of practicing. is one thought to also glasses and often very frustrating around. I think glasses more than necklaces, but necklaces. Big issue I often have with necklaces. They're not convenient to carve or like in or out of, and also laying them in disrupts the form when you're painting still fresh and just laying in the big shapes. But I find it hard to put them in without laying them too hard to find them without messing up what you've already painted. I guess unless you wait for your painting to dry completely. That could be a good strategy. Yeah. I guess paint it as if it's not there, wait for it to dry, and then paint it on top. Could work. Don't know. That might feel a little disjointed. I don't. Generally, not done for the night, but I'll be right back. There we go. Be right back. Hi, Simon. Welcome. Yeah, it was be right back. I had to take care of something for the live streaming. How you doing? Hey, welcome. How you doing? Hope you're doing have a good night. I've just been plucking away at this painting. I'm pretty happy with the progress so far. Woke up for water. Now you can't sleep. I'm sorry to hear that. I know that feeling. Yeah, if I have that problem. If I go to bed early, I'm like, I'm gonna be good and go to bed early and get a ton of sleep. Most of the time I end up waking up in the middle of the night and then I can't sleep. So it's almost worse than just going to sleep late. It looks great. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Yeah, and I'm making some good progress on it. Uh, I didn't work on the hand anymore, not yet, no. I've so far I've worked on the clothing on the folds here, um, a little around the ear and the neck area tonight. What I've been working on. And then the necklace kind of thing. Yeah. I did work on the hand last time, and I'll be getting back to the hand, so you may have missed parts of it if it looks more finished than it did before. That would be my guess. Yeah. My assumption too is that some of this stuff is harder to see on video than it is, in person. Just if for no other reason than size. So I'm not planning on I forgot you left the previous stream. Yeah, I didn't I also misunderstood what you had written in the previous stream. It took me a minute to understand you were saying goodbye. So I didn't get to say goodbye, but I'm sure you understand. Um yeah. Um it was just funny. Just remembered that. So for the necklace, um do not plan on busting out the like tiny, tiny, tiny brushes. Just gonna apply form to it and try and leave it as I don't want to go in, do all the detail. Oh, you're 90 seconds behind. That's funny. And there's a pretty bad delay sometimes anyway, so never know. So one of those things where I'm just like being stupid is around my brush. Brush has laid bristles on the sides that make, honestly, not always that big of a deal. But when trying to do like detailed stuff, very annoying. And yet, I have been resistant to grabbing a new brush because I try and use my brushes as long as I can. The rendering of the clothes looks different from my usual style. Am I trying to go more realistic rendering? Um, no. I I think because you're so close to it and it defines the form in a lot of ways because like this is the chest, right? Um, so it needs to kind of continue the form and the wrinkles. If I did the wrinkles very like free flowing kind of thing, I would it I feel like it might come off more like a pattern or stripes or something and not read as like wrinkles or stretch lines. Um, because in a way that's what they are. Um, so yeah, that's the reason. Um, so it's a combination of um, I think um, size, also simplicity too, because it's kind of a simple area, and if it just had like lines through it, I'd be a little concerned about that, looking not reading correctly. Yeah, it's definitely what's it called? It's definitely a tug of war between going very realistic on things and expressive. It's a constant like back and forth. But it's a good question and something um, I want to keep in mind and not just mindlessly do things, which I'm always at the like slipping into autopilot is always a concern because it can happen and um you know then you can make painting decisions without actually making a decision. Now, sometimes that can be a good thing because it's something that if I'm very confident or I know exactly how I want it and it just kind of zone out and paint it, sure, that can be fun. But definitely something to be aware of. I do appreciate the question. As it should, too far to each direction will make it boring and nonsensical. Ah, yes, the balance issue. Yeah. Um, it's a personal. It's a. I don't know that I want to agree with Thanos, but yeah, it's a matter of person. I think that this falls into a matter of personal taste, and because of that, also it can vary depending uh on the painting. Uh, oh, you're live. You've caught up. Okay, yeah, to the live feed. Yeah, it can also vary. Sometimes certain things will look better rendered more realistic, and other things will look better rendered, you know, a little realistic or more brushy kind of thing. Generally, I think leaning into brushy is almost always better, but it's probably not a very accurate statement. The feeling I have about it. There's also certain things that are, how can I put this? Just kind of silly. Um, and they're not silly overall, but it's like right now I'm paying a lot of attention to this to the it's the shadow and the clasp of the necklace. Um And I'm trying to get like this very subtle uh, gradation happening because the, is it inclusion shadow? I think that's what they're called. Is right here, and then it gets lighter as it goes. And that's, definitely something to pay attention to. But on a painting this size, sometimes wonder if it's worth it kind of thing. Some things just do not read certain size. But those are the little touches that like I like, so I end up spending a lot of time on them. Another question, as a traditional painter, do you work on multiple paintings every day because paint needs to dry? Um, no, but I don't make a living uh, painting right now. I make my living storyboarding. So my paintings usually end up drying before I can get back to them. Uh, anyways, um, having said that, I like to work on wet paintings, so I prefer to work on wet painting. The time that you want to leave your okay, the time I want to leave my paintings alone to dry is when they're in the tacky stage. So they're slightly dry. It's in between. So they're basically very sticky. At that point, it is usually better to leave them to dry and then come back and oil them out and then keep working. But generally speaking, pretty sure I could, if my paint only dried when I was done with the painting, like if I could, you know, magically do that and it would never dry until I was done, I'd be probably fine with that because there's very few times that I'm like, oh, I need to wait for it to dry in order to do something. But that's because I don't work um, because I work in a direct painting fashion. I don't do layers. Um, I don't layer things, and I don't mind wiping things off. So if there's a place that's like just way too slippery and I can't get the paint down the way I need it to, I'll just wipe the paint off and repaint it. Um, that's one of the useful things about working on a wet painting. You don't have it's easy to wipe things off. However, I can say that I haven't always felt that way, and it might depend on the surface I'm painting on. For instance, I've um, painted on surfaces that were so slippery after they're covered in oil that you can't, like, once they're covered in oil, you can't put down any more color because you're just lifting the color. But the not the catch, the thing is that's partially a condition, but also partially an issue of painting style and adapting to the paint. So even when it's super slippery, you load up your brush and you put it kind of sideways and paint that way, you'll usually deposit, and your brush is soft, you'll deposit paint regardless how wet it is. It will influence the look a lot though. That type of painting will definitely be more brushy. Um, you'll see more of the brush strokes, and doing smooth transitions will definitely be a lot more challenging. You see some painters you follow usually post pencil drawings for a while, and after that they post a bunch of paintings that I think that you think take a long time. Yeah. Well, that is I mean, yeah, painting is not a fast process. I mean, some people are really fast, but usually not the fastest process, and I am definitely not the fastest painter out there. So yeah, it's can easily sink, you know, like 20 hours into a painting. It's not hard to do. Even a small portrait. But yeah, most painters I know will have multiple paintings going on at the same time. Um, because of because they will get into stages where they need it to dry. Whether or not they're layering matter. Um, for one reason or another, they'll need it to dry. Is Nicholas from OPL a fast painter? Yeah, for the paintings he does for OPL, he is. Um, his other paintings is just kind of, I think it depends. Paintings he's done for, wait. Um, paintings he's done for, uh, like works that he's done in the past. I have no idea how long they took, but some of them were very large, and I bet they were very time consuming. Um, but the small ones he does on on stream and everything, yeah, fast. What ends up happening is um, people who need to do paintings fast, um, and you know, think he's faster, but he only moves his hand when he's not talking. That's why he's a bit slower on stream. Well, let me put yes and no. So I think I'm definitely slower when I have to talk. I'm sure he is too. Having said that, I think if he were to, you know, paint not on stream, my guess is that he would probably end up putting more time into the painting and like details in certain ways. I know he's not always the most detail painter, um, but because of his sitting position in OPL, he had to adjust his style a little. And I think that, you know, has helped him be a little faster. Having said that, what I was going to say before is painters uh, who paint called who need to do quick demos and stuff like that. Um, they often develop a um, like a style for that specifically. Like it's basically like a modified version of their painting style. Um, so if and since Nicholas teaches, I bet he's got a version of that going on too. You know, people who have to demo like live painting and so on. Uh, yeah, they have to adjust so that they can be quick about it. And honestly, a lot of people, if you go live, do a painting from life with models and stuff like that, you have to be quick about it. So you develop that skill, but a lot of times it's kind of a shorthand for it. Not that you get quicker. Well, okay, you get quicker, but then you also um, kind of develop like a style for it that is slightly different than like your unquote studio style. Just a little. It's not huge difference. It's just it's a way of like getting to the point quicker in a way. I don't know if that makes sense exactly, but I'm glad it makes sense. Of course, there's certain aspects of it. Like if you do it a lot, you get better at certain aspects. There are aspects like measuring. You get really good at measuring, uh, you know, and you get it very close the first time around. Well, that will that will speed you up a lot. So, you know, there are areas where like if you get good at those things, it can definitely speed you up a lot. I remember when I was art school, I was I first did not first, but in the beginning when I would do quick sketches, and what I mean by that is quick sketches from the model where they do, they do 30 seconds, 1 minute, 2 minutes, and so on. Um, oh, that was so hard in the beginning. At some point, I got much better at it, and it became a bit easier. And then I stopped doing them, and it became hard again. Like muscle, it's like a muscle. Yeah, it absolutely is. Absolutely. Same thing with like figure drawing, all of that stuff. It's the more you do it, the better you are at it. Um, but also what's it- I think some people can be really good artists and not be good at those particular things if they don't do it often. Now, this whole area, the necklace part, basically just self-suffer for no reason. Um, my own fault. I know it. if all I need to do is grab a new brush, I'll let me get the thin, clean lines I need. And I'd be already done with it. A unrelated question. How detailed are the scripts you get in storyboards? Do you have camera angles and so on? No, usually you don't have camera angles. Unless there's something very specific, uh, you usually don't get camera angles. There are there are scripts out there that you can find online uh, for animated TV shows. They do vary quite a bit depending on the show. Um, Action shows tend to have more detail in the script about like what's happening. Um, not nothing's definite. Um, yeah. So yeah, you can definitely find scripts out there. I wish I could paint as fast as I storyboarded. Oh, that'd be nice. That's interesting. Is it uh the MC walkers into the room? He finds a man with a knife sitting in the fireplace. That's like three shots. Main character in the room, the knife in the hand, and the bad guy. Oh, that could be uh I mean, the way it's described, it very much depends on the, you know, writers and everything, but like that could be something as simple as that, like character entering the room could be one shot, it could be five. It really depends, because it's not just an issue of like what is happening. You're also, you know, there's also the more complex aspects of the story. Do we know what's happening before they come in? Is it supposed to be a surprise? You know, is what is the feeling that you wanted to happen and so on. So there's a lot of, you know, a lot of different things there. And then you also have to take in consideration what happens before and after. Um, is there a cut to the um, is there a cut, or do you need to continue it? And if you need to continue it, where are things going from there? You need to make sure to keep the um, you know, line of action consistent. Um, you know, you want to you also have to consider physically, you know, like a lot of places will have designs for like the rooms or something like that. So you have to consider like where things physically are supposed to be and so on. It's a lot to kind of, you know, you have to think of. I don't know if I did a great job explaining that, but yeah, it's storyboards um can be, you know, there can be a lot of aspects, a lot of things to constantly keep in mind as you're doing them. That's way more complex than you thought. Yeah, there's a lot of things to think about. I mean, even something uh like one thing I'm running into a lot is um like there's a there's a character that is significantly shorter than the other characters right now. And that brings up a lot of challenges because you know, because even when you want to do like it just brings up a ton of challenges, you know, of like placing the character. Because if you place them by a table, for instance, they could be um, covered. If you try and do a two shot, like an over the shoulder shot, uh, you know, either you see just the top of their head or the other person has to be further away. all kinds of challenges that it also depends what you're working on. Some things aren't as detailed. You know, working on a you're working on a commercial. I mean, commercials can be detailed, but they can also be very like straightforward and simple. And there's often not as much happening, like this, story of the commercial. That's often just more of a way of helping the production know what they need to do versus storytelling. Not to say, obviously, that's not every commercial, but can be. Some commercials are pretty straight. And there are some shows that the storyboard artists. I didn't work on anything like this, but story is written very loose, and the storyboard artists essentially are like part of the writing team because they end up writing a lot of it. Um, I remember, I think Adventure Time was like that famously. I think it was Adventure Time. I'm not. It sounds like a comic book. Everything needs to make sense in a way. Yeah, it is very much like a comic book. Only, uh, you know, there's no point in comparing uh, one to the other as far as like what's harder. But I will say the challenges are different, right? Every medium has its own challenges. Uh, you can get away with cheating a lot of things in comic books, um, that you can't quite get away with in storyboards. And what I mean by that is because of the cuts, because there's always a cut between panels, the amount of time that goes between what's it called, between like the time in between panels not consistent, right? So, you know, um, so the the amount of time that passes in between panels isn't set, and it can vary from scene to scene. So you can cheat a lot of things in between those cuts of things that don't have um, things don't always have to hook up 100% as far as motion is concerned. Like if someone jumps from one place um, and lands a certain way or whatever, like um, you don't have to worry about it as much. Animation, that type of thing, you have to pay more attention to. Also, um, comics, because you can change the panels, the design, you can do a lot of very interesting things with the design, and allows for more variation in shot choices because you don't have to worry about everything around. Interesting comic book artists have more freedom in that case. Well, okay, yes, comic book artists in a lot of ways have more freedom. I would say that's probably true. However, comic book artists also have um, they have other issues. Um, you know, mainly showing motion being one of the biggest ones. Um, you know, uh, conveying motion. Um, Nuanced motion, it can often be very challenging. And then, there's other aspects of it that are different. Like you usually have to, you know, uh, draw more detailed and so on. Like there's definitely other challenges to it. That's why I prefaced it in the beginning and saying that it's not exactly a comparison. It's just each medium has its unique challenges. Comic books and storyboards, because they are so close to each other, it's easier to compare them that way. Um, yeah. I mean, I think comic books by their nature, there's it's a more expressive. Well, okay, no, I take that back. I guess the issue is that storyboards aren't a finished medium. So the direct comparison to them isn't isn't entirely accurate. I was going to say that like comic books are more expressive than storyboards, but that's not really an accurate way of describing it because I wouldn't say that comics are more expressive than what's it called? I wouldn't say that comics are more expressive than animation. That very much depends on the comic and the animation. But storyboards are not a finished medium. So the painting is coming along nicely. Thank you, Amon. Take that. You said OIC, but I'm not sure what you're referring. Assuming the storyboards, but I'm not 100%. The other day you saw a short video of the One Punch Man manga. The comic book artist draws panels like they are frames of animation so they can actually be animated when you put them together. That's cool. Um, that's cool. I have seen comics that were done entirely like animation kind of thing. You know, one panel kind of per page kind of thing. Um, I don't feel like they're taking advantage of the medium all the time when they do that. I'm not, I'm not opposed to it because artists do what they think best for their particular, medium or story. Having said that, generally, generally, I I think that they are not taking advantage um, of all the benefits of the medium when sticking to that. It's super cool. Like I said, I'm not going to gatekeep anybody. I definitely think there are times where it works. I remember just remember a few comics that had these scenes that were super cool or impactful in some way, and they wouldn't have been possible in the same way if they had stuck to a rigid format like that, because they used the flexibility of comics to enhance the story and the storytelling. But once again, like I said, that's definitely doesn't apply to every single every single sound like it should. Also, I could see the argument for doing it that way to kind of like a selling point. Um, uh, if he did that before, made it into an anime, and he was trying to sell it. Also help vision it. Well, that's an Amber Alert. 11:50. There it is. Insert. Okay. I get why the emergency services have those alerts and stuff, but like it's 11:15 and I'm home. Unless the person breaks into my house, I'm gonna be able to help here. Yeah, I recently signed up for a Crunchyroll, so I will be watching one at some point. Well, I'm watching One Piece right now. Um, but after I make my way through One Piece, I'll move on. Either either I get bored of One Piece or I finish it and then I move on to something. I am up to 500 almost, I think, on One Piece, something like that. They already finished the whole prison arc. And, now there's the big battle. You watch like 60 episodes of One Piece in a month and take a break to watch something new. That's how you don't get bored of it. Um, Impaled Down arc. Yeah, that was the prison one. So they, uh, but now it's the continuation of it, where um, they're fighting the Marines. There's like a big battle with the Marines. The one with Michelin and the Egypt guy. Yeah, they've already. That's already passed. They're now at the at the Marine base. Yeah, yeah, that's exactly where I'm at. But I think it's about to end, honestly. It's one of your favorites. Yeah, uh, it's good. I also like the animation. And I think they did a great job with the animation in this one. I feel like they well, suspect that they contracted a one. There's one studio in particular that has that kind of look that they've been getting. So I think they've been contracting them out to some of the action scenes to that one in particular right now. Can't remember the name of the studio at the moment, but yeah, it's a look kind of. I think the studio is Trigger. I'm just assuming, based off of the look. I think that's the name of it. Whitebeard and the Admiral fight was more brutal in the manga. I haven't quite gotten to that fight yet. So spoilers, I guess. Yeah, they're about to fight. I'm sure the manga was generally more brutal overall. That's that's Wano arc was way better animation. Trust you. Okay. That's 11. All right. I'm gonna give it like 10 more minutes, round out to 3 hours, and then probably call it a night. Um, didn't quite finish this, but made a ton of progress. So good progress, slow. I'm a little slower after work generally, and also streaming in addition to painting usually slows me down too. So yeah, definitely slower than I'd like to be making progress. But so not gonna complain about good progress. So no, too much. Yeah, but yeah, I'm so I'm gonna say thank you now, because I always feel like I rush the goodbyes, good nights, goodbyes, all that. You know, for stopping by. Salman, thank you. I appreciate company. And to anyone watching, lurking, thank you. I don't mind lurk. And to anyone watching after the fact, why? But thank you. No, kidding. Not why. I have a hard time watching live streams after the fact a lot of time, but I appreciate one who does. Anyone ever has questions afterwards or whatever, you're welcome to post in the not the comments, yeah, the comment section. I try and answer them. Sometimes I miss some, but I try and answer comments, reply, and so Saman, I hope you are able to get some sleep. Um, Hopefully, I bored you to sleep, so you'll have no problem. Um, yeah. Yours have weird shapes in them. This was fun. I'm glad you enjoyed it. So yeah, I enjoyed it definitely. Things here is made it too light and shadow. Yours are really weird shaped to like fold in on themselves in different ways. Not the first person to mention this, but yeah. Coming along. All right. Well, this was a lot of fun. Thank you, everyone who joined. I appreciate it. I will be streaming on Sunday. Have a good night, everyone.